Welcome to Raptors Today. I'm Savanna Hamilton, joined by Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. The Raptors lost last night 108 to 115 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, we were down a few men, and while Nurse is still working it out, check out this board. You see Siakam and Lowry have both been out for 2 games, and last night Anunoby was also. And then if you take a look at the offensive numbers, Raps are 2-2 in the last 4. And the Raptors, Jonesy, are filling in the offensive gaps. But what can you tell me? What are some challenges here for Nick Nurse?
Well, the challenges are that people move up a notch when you think about it, Savannah. I mean, you had, key components out. You're missing Lowry and Siakam, and we had talked about it that night when we did Nightcap. Sherman, I, Leo, all of us, Jack. The fact that that they made that game like an old school late 80s, early 90s game. They were grinding on the defensive end. Scores were at a premium. I think it was epitomized by the blocks of Boucher and Stanley Johnson at the end. And when your offense is down like that, you have to depend on your defense. And what it does is move other guys up a notch. You are going to need more efficiency, more production, more proficiency. Other guys who normally play 8, 10, 12 minutes, they might be getting bumped up to 15, 20 minutes. And if they're not on their game, you're going to be in trouble. The longer you go without being at peak efficiency and peak performance, you're going to get exposed. And I think we're seeing not all, but bits and pieces of that when some of the guys step into the lineup, they do a good job, but now you're trying to expand their roles. And it just means that the margin of error is less. And as the board showed you, some of the numbers down, and what has to pick that up? You've got to pick that up with the slack on the defensive end. So I'm not surprised. And as a matter of fact, 2-2, pretty good in the last 4, considering the names that have been out of the lineup.
And you've mentioned defense there. Take a look at this board here. The numbers show how well they rank within the league. You want to throw that up real quick? There we go. So top 5 in the league in all these categories. And, it's just not translating into wins. So, Sherm, this is good to see, but how does this team get to where they need to go, get to the win? How do they finish games here?
Well, obviously, they're going to need their offense to click in at some point. You don't want those defensive numbers to slip, though. Those are very good defensive numbers, and those are winning defensive numbers. And I think sometimes, you look at the overall win-loss total and you're saying, well, if those numbers aren't getting it done in terms of the win column, well, maybe other things need to be done. No, the defense needs to stay where it is and continue to get better. The offense is where all the help needs to come from. And I think what we saw in that Milwaukee game was, even though the Raptors struggled to score, they made it difficult for Milwaukee to score as well. And that's why Milwaukee didn't run away with that game, because their defense stayed intact when their offense wasn't clicking. So I think it's great those defensive numbers are there. And ultimately, if they're going to do anything significant this season, their defense is it's what's going to be getting it done for them. And they cannot rely on the offensive end. However, right now, they need to see some more consistent, aggressive, I think an offense that allows them to have some confidence on that end of the floor. Because right now, they just look like a bunch of guys trying to figure it out. And that's a difficult place to be in. And not necessarily their fault. Some has to do with injuries, guys being out of the lineup, different guys getting opportunities. Nick Nurse is trying to be creative with the lineups, but those defensive numbers are very good. And Savannah, I don't think they should want to do anything with those defensive numbers but make them better.
And head coach Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet both spoke to media earlier today. Let's take a listen.
I mean, a little bit, Doug. I think there is, there's always a little bit of chemistry or rhythm or something that gets affected by a lot of guys in and out and things like that in different positions and things like that. But again, like I said last night, I don't think that's as much of the case of us just understanding kind of like how good it is when we play what we call next action basketball, just continually looking for the next action. And then, and it's not 20 of them, but it's like 3, boom, 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 boom. And then something's there usually, or a hard drives in the paint, and then we're into our drive, kick, and swing game. So it's just a little bit more of having some Well, just repetitions of that, Doug, really, something we worked really hard on today is just getting up the floor and understanding that there's a lot of things that can happen. You really can't do anything wrong as long as you're going into a next action and you do it with some speed and pace and do it well. And then you just kind of keep looking for the next one after that. And I think usually we end up breaking them down. Now, I've been, I would say for the most part on a whole this year, I've been really happy with the offense, Doug. I think that has created a lot of good shots for us. And in some games it was really good. I think last night it let us down. Well, it was very good, but it just let us down in a couple of stretches, and that was just our doing. It was just, a quick shot here, quick shot there, little turnover there, and piling them up on top of each other rather than understanding, okay, maybe we took a quick shot up the floor last time. This time, let's make sure we get down and get to some multiple actions and get the ball side to side.
Still growing, still getting better each day, each game, still learning. I think we got a lot more guys that need experience and learning and, that type of stuff than probably we thought we did going into it. But here we are, we're in this position. We can't get some of the ones that we dropped early back, but I think we're trending in the right direction. So we've been playing pretty good basketball as of late, and we just got to keep continuing to find ways to win and keep building those stretches of good play, longer and longer each game. But, all in all, I think we got a good enough team to do it. It's just going to take a little bit more than, it has in previous years, obviously. When you win, it's just like, okay, we got one and, we'll get another one and they add up. And then when you lose, you start looking at it and say, damn, we got, we got to start getting them. So it's just a matter of perspective and understanding that it's a long season and we got a lot of basketball in front of us and a lot of opportunities to continue to get better. And, we're a streak or two away from being right back in the mix and just understanding that, but it's not going to happen, by accident. We're going to have to go out and do it each day.
Now, guys, we have to talk about Norm Powell because he's been playing amazing down the stretch and filling in for guys like OG, Siakam, and Lowry, who haven't been present in the past couple of games. And if you look at the stats he's been putting up, 23 points in the last 4 games that he's averaging, field goal percentage being 48, and the rest of it speaks for itself. So, Jonesy, what are you seeing from Powell that's got him playing and scoring with such efficiency?
Savanna, before we get to Norm, I just want to tag what Fred said. Last night on my drive home, I happened to spend part of it with an NBA general manager on the line with him. And we were talking about how crazy the year was and the up and down nature and cancellation of games. And he said to me, but don't you guys worry in Toronto, you're going to be fine. And I said, well, what does going to be fine mean? Playoffs are 10 teams this year. He says, no, don't look at 9 or 10. And that's something that I've always talked about. He said, Toronto's still going to finish. In my eyes, they're still going to finish in the top 4, 5, or 6. So I thought that was interesting coming from somebody who's on the outside and is involved in making deals and watching the overall tenor of the league. And then one of the reasons is a guy like Norman Powell. And Sherm pointed this out probably 2-3 years ago, and it's something that's always stuck with me. Yeah, Sherm, about this. Norm's a guy that's been in every role. He's been buried deep on the bench. He's come in as a defensive guy. He's won you a playoff series against Indiana a few years ago. He changed a playoff series when the Raptors were just drilled by Milwaukee, and it was only one game, but they lost by, it seemed like 1,000,000 points, and people were up in arms. The next game, Norm starts, the series changes, the Raptors win 3 in a row, game over. He's come in, he's started. He's done a good job starting. So he's played every role. And what I like about him, Savanna, is his single-mindedness on the job at hand. Whether he's starting, whether he's coming in off the bench, he has touchstones. Play defense, get going downhill if I can offensively, and play within the team framework. That doesn't mean that everything goes perfectly, but I think you're seeing this from Norm, and he's trying to develop some modicum of consistency. And I think that's what you're seeing over the last few games with him. He really, really has done well. And something that's underplayed, man, he's starting to move the ball well, as Nick Nurse talked about, in the next action basketball and becoming a facilitator as well.
That's what I like to hear, Jonesy, that another GM saying that, the Raptors going to be just fine. Don't worry. I love that.
It doesn't mean anything, though, Savanna, until they start being fine themselves, like Fred says.
That's a very good point. And, somebody who has also stepped up has been Aron Baynes. And Sherman, I want to talk about that because is he just scratching the surface with the Raptors, or is this kind of just what we expected from him?
Well, I think he's getting a bit more comfortable with his surroundings, and that's allowing him to just kind of exhale a little bit, if you want to call it that. I think maybe the expectations surrounding Aron Baynes coming in and who he was replacing in terms of Serge and Mark, I think maybe those expectations got a bit out of whack, thinking that he'd be able to fill a lot or some of those roles that both those guys have. Look, he's a physical guy. He's going to be able to set good screens. He's going to be a presence in the paint in terms of defensively, on the ground, not necessarily blocking shots, but just being physical and wide around the paint. And he's going to be a guy offensively who's going to make the occasional three, but he's going to be a drop-off guy, a guy who's going to be spoon-fed some buckets to enable him to have some offensive punch. So I think now we're starting to see more of that happen consistently, although he struggled against Milwaukee with that three-point shot. And at some point, he's got to realize when you're getting all those shots and not making them, maybe the defense is designed so that you do get those shots, and you might have to move the basketball instead of take those shots sometimes. But there's no question that he's playing better basketball. There's more consistency, and there's a better understanding of what he might be able to give on a game-to-game basis. And maybe that expectation was a bit out of whack to start the season.
Very fair. And guys, I'll catch up with you in just a moment. We're going to go to a previous conversation we had on RTX. This is RTX, and joining us again is Duane Notice, professional basketball player, and Amit, Mann, NBA reporter at Yahoo Sports. Amit, it's your first time here, so glad to have you on.
Happy to be with the basketball player. Jeez, no pressure.
Okay.
I know basketball,
Yeah.
Well, here's your chance to prove it. So we got to get talking about, first and foremost, Bell Let's Talk Day. If you haven't noticed by all the timelines, it's Bell Let's Talk Day, or by Duane Notice's hat. So former Raptor DeMar DeRozan, he started the conversation, and Fred VanVleet in more recent times has continued it. So my question to you, Duane, since you are wearing the hat, how important is it to continue the conversation?
I think it's very important. I think it's imperative for the game, especially not just basketball or any sport in general, but just in life, to have that outlet. Everybody has their own battles every day. They struggle with different things. So if you're able to have an outlet, someone that you can trust, someone that you can talk to, then I encourage it by any means. So I'm proud that DeMar DeRozan came out, spoke out against his struggles, and now that we're able to kind of have that awareness and continue to once a year speak out about it, I think it's really good for the community. It's really good for the game. So I'm gonna continue to support it and be an advocate of it, and I hope everybody else is too.
I think when it comes down to it, we got to make this conversation more comfortable, because it's still a little bit uncomfortable. And at this point, we're in 2021 now. We should be more accepting of people who are having these issues on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, you talk about DeMar, like he opened up things for a lot of NBA players, right? Because they weren't comfortable having this conversation. Now they are, or at least more so than they were before. And one thing that I saw on Twitter the other day was that there was a female, she was saying that she was going to a therapy session and she was kind of a little bit nervous, a little bit scared about what she had to talk about, but she had her DeMar DeRozan jersey on, and that gave her power. And that's really cool. I mean, this is the power of athletes. Like we talked about, with what Kyrie Irving is going through right now. He's been kind of used as sort of a scapegoat for what, kind of the media basketball player relationship not being as great. And this is the power of what a person can do when they are in a position like Kyrie Irving and DeMar.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. I'm so happy to hear that she did wear that jersey, because it really does speak to how much power these players hold. Not to mention, on an everyday basis, this conversation is important, because I personally believe that it's as simple as a, hey, how are you? And then you're going to get the generic answer of, yeah, I'm good. And then you go like, no, how are you? And then just give it that second to breathe. And people usually open up and actually tell you what's happening, because, we all go through it at some point, right? We got to shift gears a little bit now. We're going to talk about Kyle Lowry, because he joined the 10,000 point club last night, along with DeMar DeRozan and Chris Bosh in a Raptors jersey, of course. So I'm going to start with you, Amit. What is your favorite Kalo moment ever?
Man, there's so many to pick from. But my moments normally are around those moments where Kyle just kind of takes over a game because he's such a heady player. That's what Norm Powell said the other day. He's like a very heady player. His basketball IQ is always at 100,000%. So he's always thinking of ways to win the game as opposed to get his. But when he does get his, it is so cool. So like game 6 against the Warriors, that first quarter, that was insane. Like that was just like, get out of the way. I got this. Another one was game 7 against Miami. He had like 35 points. He really clinched that game for them. And then this is kind of a sour note, but game 4 against LeBron in 2018, when, the Raptors, they got swept, it's game 3. The Raptors, they got swept, but that was a game that Kyle Lowry in the fourth quarter, he's like, we are not going out like this. And so he's just like, I got Kevin Love on me. Get out the way because I'm going to do this. And he almost did it. Unfortunately, LeBron James happened.
Duane, what do you think?
Man, for me, I'll probably go the opposite route. Like, my favorite, just being a basketball player, for me, I love the way he plays defense. Like his approach to his defense and the way he understands the game so much at a high level is something that I think is like commendable. Just that you see him argue every call, but it's because he knows the rule book inside out, and he's really, really a student of the game, and he's so masterful when it comes to basketball. He really plays chess instead of checkers. A basketball player and someone who looks up to someone like that is when they were playing Brooklyn. I forgot what year it was. I'm not as good with the history, but when they're in the playoffs and they're playing Brooklyn and we lost to Brooklyn, and Kyle kind of had like a poor performance and we couldn't get over that hump. Him and DeRozan kept struggling in the playoffs after having, marvelous seasons. And for him to have that resiliency and then take over, like you said, when they played the Warriors and have his success during the playoffs and have that consistency just lets me know as a person, as a man, that like whenever you're knocked down, you have the opportunity to kind of get back again. You should always take the opportunity full throttle. So for me, it's his resiliency for him to bounce back from a poor playoff performance to come and be one of the, best players in the playoffs.
No, those are both great moments, guys. And you gave me multiple, so thanks for that. My favorite moment was Miami Heat 2016, game 1, OT. Real quick now, Yuta Watanabe. We got to talk about him because he's the hype on social. But my question to you guys, I'm going to start with you, Duane, is what does Utah have to do to become one of those fan favorite bench players of like all time, like a JYD or like a Rondé Hollis Jefferson?
Continue doing things. He comes on the court and he does all the dirty work, the grunt work. He brings high energy, high motor. I just love his approach to the game. He doesn't talk trash, but he's always communicating out there, and he's a sponge and always learning. To be a success off the court, a bench player that like kind of has his own name, I think he needs some type of merch. I don't know if he needs to come out with like some type of catchphrase or something like that, because he doesn't speak a lot, but some type of catchphrase, Yuta, something, I don't know, and then have that be the merch. Like just kind of like Jordan Lloyd when he was like, the guy on the, what was his shirt say? The guy on I forgot what Jordan Lloyd had behind Kawhi when he hit the shot.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He needs something like that, just something like that, really catchy, and I think he'll continue blowing up on social media.
And he needs a marketing manager or like a Twitter fan account or something like that, similar to Aron Baynes, right? Baynes has that account, and like he's a celebrity, even though, he's not exactly a star player, so to speak. Other thing with him is that I think, he's not that kind of JYD play. He doesn't like block shots. He doesn't dunk. He doesn't do these like really pretty passes. He just doesn't have that really like sexy game that gets that kind of fanfare, but he is very fundamentally sound. So I just think he has to keep on doing what he's doing. He has to make shots when he gets an opportunity, because there were a couple of times, with the past few games where he has that shot, that shot, right? That really gets you over the hump. He misses them. So if he can get his like roll, 20, 25 minutes a game, he keeps on doing what he's doing, I think he's going to be a fan favorite. Toronto already loves him. He just doesn't know it because he's in Tampa.
Toronto, Japan, I see around the world people are really taking to him. And shout out to Jake. He said guy in the suit was the shirt that you're referring to, Duane.
Guy in the suit, yeah.
That's what it was.
I forgot because Jordan's such a great basketball player, and I don't even think of him just being a guy in the suit.
True. All right, guys, thank you so much for being on RTX. It was actually so much fun. Hope to have you guys back. And we got to go to Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton now. The Raptors play Friday. That is tomorrow against the Kings in Tampa. You can catch the game on Sportsnet and listen to it on TSN 1050. Now, Jonesy, Kyle Lowry, that man in the border you see right there, he is a part of the 10,000-point club, joining the ranks of DeMar DeRozan and Chris Bosh. What are your thoughts on his performance ever since he put on a Raptors jersey?
I think Kyle personifies and epitomizes what Raptor fans are looking for in their team. As much as, they like the winning, that they like a guy that puts in the effort, a guy that gives you an honest day's work, and that's Kyle Lowry. And I mean, you look at him now, he hasn't lost any of that fire, any of that competitiveness. They always say it's hard to be hungry when you're full. Kyle's got his ring, but he's still hungry. He still wants more. He still wants to win. He still wants the next call. And I think that's a kind of player that the city can identify with. And you look at it, longevity is measured in greatness is measured in longevity as well as accomplishments. Kyle's been here a long time and done a lot of great things for Toronto. So I think eventually, he'll stand on the top of the board with his buddy DeMar DeRozan 1 and 2, because I think he's going to pass Bosch. And it says something about Kyle. He was here when it wasn't good. He kept scrapping. He kept working. And he was here when it was good, and they won a championship. So it speaks to what he's been able to accomplish here.
Sure, we do have to talk about the game ahead of us, which is Sacramento. And we have to, let's talk a little bit about our franchise record evening the last time we played against them, led by Fred.
Yeah, I mean, the Raptors had a great evening, as you mentioned, such in Savannah, in terms of their ability to score the basketball. And it kind of falls in line with Sacramento having the worst defense in the league. They're going to allow you to score. You're going to find ways, and not difficult ways, to put the ball in the basket against this team. And sometimes that can put you in a position of being a bit careless with your offense. You're going to get your shots, so maybe some more questionable shots are taken just because maybe you cough the ball up because you're just not as sharp. And that's something that the Raptors are really going to have to fight, because beyond Sacramento, they're playing for themselves. They need to get better. They need to work on things. And we talked about it earlier in the show. Their offense is nowhere near where they want it to be consistently. They're getting good shots most of the times. They're not making them all the times. Those turnovers are costing them. And I just think sometimes when you're a quick shoot team against a very easy defense, it can be a recipe for bad habits to be created or reinforced. So I just think that the Raptors have to be very careful with their offense, understanding they're going to get very good opportunities, and just continue to build regardless of who's in front of them. Yes, it's Sacramento, but as a team, they have things that they need to accomplish, and they can't do that focused on the style of play that Sacramento plays on defense.
Jonesy, we got 40 seconds, so I want you to wrap this up. Do you expect a great matchup for Chris Boucher? Because when we last played him, he was just coming on the scene.
Well, if the speed of the game is any indication, and as Sherm said, Sacramento's defense is the way it is, I expect Chris to be in there. He's a guy that always makes things happen. He plays hard. He's in the middle of the action. So I think you're going to see him on the floor.
I think we're going to see him on the floor as well. We got 30 seconds left. So, what can we expect from him this time around?
Well, I think that Chris is going to have a chance to kind of get out of this little lull that he's been in over the last few games. I mean, he hit the ground running, and then he just kind of slowed down. So we're going to see a resurgence, hopefully, for Chris.
Thank you guys very much. This has been Raptors Today. Catch you guys next time. Thank you for watching our latest episode. Make sure you subscribe to all the Toronto Raptors social channels so that you don't miss a thing.